Meantime, social media, as you know, played a huge role in the anti-Mubarack protests. And today, for the first time in several days, Egyptians are coming back online. Here with more on social media's role in the revolts and for the social soul behind the social media is Alexis Ohanian, co-founder of the website Reddit. So last time we were on, we talked a little bit about this. You know, is it overstated to say this is the Twitter revolution, the Facebook revolution? But talk to me about this sort of foreign policy aspect that tech companies have taken on themselves. With Google, with the voice to tweet, Twitter. Tech companies want to be more involved, it seems.
Very much so. And it's really easy to call this like a Twitter revolution, sort of like we saw in the protests in Iran last year. But really, you know, people cause revolutions, not tweets.
Right.
But the technology is a really fantastic platform for people to get information out, to get data out of places, and then also to reflect that data back into places for people who are, you know, who can't see what is actually going on. And, you know, companies like Google and Twitter have a vested interest in playing a role in this because they see this new medium of communication as something that needs to be spread and needs to be made as accessible. And so Google now basically lets you leave a voicemail if you're in Egypt that then turns into a tweet, which any one of us can sort of then retweet or listen to.
Right, and that was important because literally a switch was flipped off in terms of access to the internet. So you had the government in Egypt recognizing that the social media was an enabler.
Indeed.
But what's different from television?
Well, that there's really no filter, and that anyone can get any information out to the world almost pretty much instantly. And it was a sort of scary proposition to understand that, you know, the Egyptian government could essentially flip a few switches and turn off all of the internet. Ars Technica did a fantastic report on it, and if any Americans were as curious as I was, it's not nearly as easy to do here in a country like the United States, just because there are basically so many tubes going in and out. But it was a very real problem for them because there was content that they just didn't want to be seen, and they were able to, at least for the time being, close it off. So
you're watching, you know, so many different media spaces, blogs and the like, and what you see on Reddit. What was the bottom line for people here? Because as you said, there was interest in this. Could this happen here? Is there a switch on the internet in America?
Yes. Well, I mean, this is the sort of thing it's sort of come up here and there. But generally speaking, this is something that most of us are quite afraid of ever existing here in a country like the U.S. But with regard to the with protests going on in Egypt, there were certainly a lot of sympathetic voices and a lot of very, very interested people. And in particular, it's fascinating to see how different now Al Jazeera is being perceived than it was, say, back in 2003 when it was rather vilified. For most of us, that live feed has been the source of raw data coming out of the country.
And arguably, hey, there is an appetite for international news.
Yes.
But that's me editorializing. With the question, though, of tech companies launching their own foreign policy, trying to enable, does that stop when a company becomes public? I mean, look at Google and how it was unsure of how it should handle access to China. They finally took a stand, but it took them a while to get there.
Yes, yeah, that is the trouble. When you're sort of at the whim of shareholders, you've got to do what is best for them.
So can Facebook and Twitter be the enablers and then go public?
You know, for the time being, yes, they can, because they don't have to worry about any publicly traded repercussions. And for a site like Reddit, which is also privately owned, we can sort of get away with things.
It's owned by Condé Nast.
Yes, owned by Condé Nast. It can get away with things that, you know, may not necessarily be in the best interests of what shareholders would want, but is, you know, helping distribute out information as openly and freely as possible.
We're going to take a break here, but when we come back, I want to talk about what Rupert Murdoch is unveiling in just a few minutes from now, this new iPad magazine, and more on the state of what you're seeing in the social media space. More in a moment with Alexis. Stay with us.